Morning, Dad.
Hey, going for a run?
Yeah, you should join me like you used to.
Not with my old knees and back.
Try Xanthicin. It could really help. Plus, it's super safe, Dad, and it's good for your heart and brain.
Xanthicin fights aging with astaxanthin, nature's most powerful antioxidant. And with 3 times the absorption and superior purity, it's the brand physicians trust. Find it at getxantho.com and these retailers. Keep doing what you love with Xanthicin.
All right, how's it going, everybody? It is episode 40. That's right, episode 40 here on Hawaiʻi Football Now, presented by Xanthicin. A big mahalo to our other sponsors, Spectrum Mobile and Hawaiʻi USA Federal Credit Union. We record this on Wednesday, 7 a.m. It is June 1st. The calendar has turned. We are now, I think, officially sort of in the summer for the folks, especially when you look at the sports calendar with baseball wrapping up over this past weekend and kind of closing the book on the 21-22 athletic calendar for the University of Hawaii. And next thing you know, next thing's up, going to be week 0 and Vanderbilt coming to town to take on the University of Hawaii. Before we dive into our opening drive, Hunter, I know you've gotten to know some of our good friends over at Xanthicin, and you got to tell everybody about this amazing supplement called astaxanthin.
Yeah, absolutely, Jordan. You may have heard about it. It's this amazing supplement called astaxanthin. Doctors and pharmacists recommend it for everything from joint and muscle function to cholesterol health and cognitive function, even anti-aging, which it's summertime, Haole boy in Hawaii, we need as much as that as we can. But did you know that only one brand delivers 3 times more astaxanthin to your body, making it a better buy than the competition? Introducing Xanthicin. Available at getxantho.com, Newtown Square Pharmacy, Down to Earth Kaka'ako, GNC stores, and Pharmacare Hawaii. Learn more at getxantho.com. You got any big summer plans, Jordan? Rolling into the summer?
Yeah, got a few. You know, we're trying to relax as much as possible, right? We're trying to relax as much as possible. Got a little Vegas trip lined up here coming up this weekend, actually.
Nice,
you know, kind of nice way to break up the end of the athletic year, and some of those responsibilities are done in POW until the fall. So you know, got a little Vegas trip. I got to make sure I pack some of the Xanthicin to, you know, Vegas can be a little bit of a grind, no complaints. But you know, you got to be able to be on top of your game as you make your way through the winding journey that is Las Vegas. It's good and bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean,
how about you, man?
Man, we got big time golf tournaments coming up in just a couple weeks.
That's right.
Here at the Hawaii State Golf Association. So ramping up for that, getting the short game dialed in. It's always a good time. We're going to mix it up a little bit and might try to see the family once or twice this summer. But the one family I'm excited to see this fall is, of course, my Warriors football Hana. And we've got an exciting fall in front of us, man. So let's get into it.
Yeah, it should be a fun summer as well. And speaking of family and Ohana, you know, I think for us, we've developed a nice little thing here on Hawaiʻi Football Now, and just for our opening drive, I wanted to kind of just take it as an opportunity to mahalo everybody who's kind of stuck with us, who's joined us along the journey. You know, when we began this all the way back in week 1 of the 2021 season, you know, I didn't know where it would kind of go. I think it's sort of organically grown to where it's at. We've gone guestless today in part to kind of focus on the comments we get from a lot of the listeners and the viewers, catch up on some of the ones we've missed over the last couple of weeks. We love having guests on, but we kind of wanted to, you know, focus a little bit on the folks that have been with us there throughout, and just wanted to give everybody a thanks. I mean, we've made it 40 episodes, Hunter. This is kind of surreal in a sense. We hope to have many more, obviously, throughout the summer. We'll be with you basically every week leading up into the season, and then on into the opening year of Timmy Chang. But it has been there's been no shortage of subjects to talk about, that's for sure, since we began this partnership, Hunter and I, on this iteration of the podcast. But just wanted to thank all the listeners out there, all the folks who have tuned in, that have been able to catch us on the different platforms, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or some of the more traditional podcasting platforms as well. Big thanks to our guy Jaron on the controls, Keegan who was with us, Ku'u who was with us all the way back when we sort of started this thing, and a big mahalo to you as well, my partner. This has been fun. And again, this isn't, some sort of long-winded deal, but it's just kind of a nice moment to reflect and give thanks to the folks that have been so supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. And great feedback from different season ticket holders that I've run into in the community. They've gone as far as to say we're the football authority right now in this part of the year, Jordan, which I am very humbled by that. I don't know if that's necessarily the truth, but we are definitely trying to do our best on our end, and we're just stoked to be on the journey with everyone out there in this crazy getting back on our feet. Ex-COVID, what's new, what's in the future. And now we've got this Timmy Chang era as well right in front of us. An exciting time right now with UH football for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I don't know if we're the authority. I agree with you. That is humbling. But if we were, that would probably come with a little more influence, or like we'd have a little more say on things. And that is really not the case. And I hope we didn't put on that illusion. But no,
I'm just glad we didn't get canceled, Jordan. There was rumor of that back in the Graham era with some things old Hunter had to say. So I'm glad that I didn't can us back this past fall.
We're still going. We're still going. We made it to 40.
Baby.
We look forward to hopefully 40 more and beyond that as well. And before we say anything that'll put our foots in our mouth, I guess that'll be the nice, easy segue into the game time portion of our podcast here on episode 40. Wanted to start off with this pretty cool news being announced yesterday by the Hawaiʻi Restaurant Association in partnership with 4 different restaurants, Giovanni Pastrami, Kuhio Food Hall, Kutaku, and Ruby Tuesday, who have partnered up, not necessarily with the University of Hawaii directly, but partnered up with University of Hawaii athletes via the NIL avenue. This is something that has been, sort of a portal that has been opened up in a way that local businesses, restaurants in this case, can partner with University of Hawaii athletes who during the summer when school is not in session, I don't know how many people were aware of this, but their meals are not paid for, right? The budgeting is basically from the start of school to the end of school. And so for these athletes who are still working just as hard during the off season, if not harder, Hunter can shed some light on that. But these guys, they're kind of on their own. There's not nearly as much financial assistance during the off season or the non-school year, basically during the summer. And so what these 4 restaurants have done is sort of hooied up. They are now providing 300 meals a week. They're each taking a turn. Basically, each restaurant will take a turn over the next 8 weeks through the end of July. They will provide 300 meals a week. Again, this is via the name, image, and likeness sort of platform. And so they've all these players who have signed on board, which a number of them have, as you would imagine, free food. They get to promote them on their social media. They get to provide some feedback and all this kind of stuff. Real simple stuff. But what it's done is allowed these restaurants and players to partner up to help feed them. I think it's a win-win, obviously, for these restaurants. They're also providing some gift cards. And these guys are getting fed. And Hunter, you've been through this, man, especially as a walk-on, right? Like it's any free stuff you can get. You are very much jumping at that opportunity. And I'm sure back in your time, this would have been kind of nice for you. But, that was a different era where you would have gotten like the compliance office in a tizzy if you had done this back in the day. But now it's fair game and pretty cool. It's not some massive thing, but it is a sizable financial commitment from these restaurants, no doubt about it. You're talking tens of thousands of dollars in valuation. But this is great. And I think, Coach Timmy Chang has expressed his great support, as I'm sure is no surprise. And pretty awesome that these guys are getting to take advantage of some of the avenues provided by the NIL.
Oh, totally. I mean, in the past, you were just so hamstrung with companies boosters, people that actually wanted to give to the program, but you had to sort of follow suit. And there was so many hoops you had to jump through, protocols you had to observe to, name, image, and likeness is not just about giving specific players millions of dollars. It's a way to partner with schools now and support the athletic program, specific players, obviously, in a more effective manner, I would say. I can remember back whenever I was a walk-on, it was still at a time where the NCAA had not passed this this movement where walk-ons could not eat with scholarship players. So I would get done with practice and I could not eat with the team that was provided for them because they technically only budgeted for scholarship athletes. It wasn't until Shabazz Napier from Connecticut, if you remember that name, Jordan, Final Four, I think they won the Natty too for basketball. He mentioned going to bed hungry every night. They asked him kind of what life was like as a student athlete, and that's kind of shedding light on the shadow that is the actual day in, day out life of a student athlete. I mean, just to put it into perspective for people listening online right now, for scholarship football players at UH, you generally, give or take, get about $2,000 a month. And so if you're living off campus, which the majority of people are, to save on rent, because it's actually more expensive to live on campus, you're talking about maybe $1,000 in change, something like that, just for living. Yeah, they take care of room, they take care of your schooling, they take care of your books. But then outside of meals with the team, everything else is on your dime. And in Hawaii, for those listening online, know that is a stretch right there, especially if you're a big boy. If you're a big boy and you like to eat, you got to find some creative ways to feed yourself and get ready for the season. I remember we had a strength and conditioning coach a while back who recommended us to go to the dollar menu at McDonald's just to feed ourselves. And so this is a groundbreaking opportunity for the program, obviously for the players. I mean, we were joking about it before, Jordan. If this was me, I mean, what's the time frame here? It's the end of May through July or something like that. One meal a week from each restaurant. I'm telling you, man, I'm stretching that as much as I possibly can. I'm going whatever the extent of that one meal is. I'm bringing my own boxes to bring home. There's all sorts of things that I'm willing to do for free food, and I know many of the players share that same sentiment. So if you guys are in the area of those restaurants, Jordan, could we get that list again? I mean, support these guys. This is literally how we support the program and how we support the community and how we come together as one massive ohana. Huge win right now for the Brotherhood and Coach Timmy and his staff.
Yeah, exactly. Again, that's Giovanni Pastrami, Kuhio Food Hall, Kutaku, and Ruby Tuesday Hawaii as well, teaming up. And the other thing too, and the restaurant industry, and a lot of people have been hit hard, don't get me wrong, but it's been rough, for the restaurant industry the last couple of years, and for them to kind of step up in this way, I know isn't easy. But I'm with you. And look, I love McDonald's. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm in the peak physical condition. But I'm going to imagine that even the strength coaches and whatnot, that's not necessarily the ideal way to get your post-workout replenishment, to get a pre-workout protein in. Like a McChicken, probably not the way to go. Right. So, when you get a little more well-rounded meal, say from Giovanni Pastrami, like these guys did yesterday, I think it'll probably go a little further than maybe the value menu.
Totally. And, we're never going to be able to match the program level of someone like Alabama, who has an on-staff kitchen, and on-staff dietitian, people making, and obviously whatever comes with buying this food for their athletes. But in some small way, this is a huge step forward for our program. And I hope other teams in the athletics program, I mean, we just won the national championship for volleyball, can sort of fall suit in the same way. It would be really encouraging to see for them as well.
Without a doubt. I mean, this is a big deal, big partnership, maybe a template for others to take advantage of as well, as you point out. So they'll be getting ready, obviously, throughout the summer, getting fed a little bit. as they lead up to the season opener against Vanderbilt, August 27th at home at Ching. And that game, just recently announced, will be on national television. We're talking CBS Sports Network, one of two games for the University of Hawaii on the CBS Sports Network platform, and one of four games on the national TV schedule. And if you're wondering, that sounds a little low, right? I mean, last year, basically, near half of the games were on national television via, the UCLA game on ESPN, as well as a handful of games on CBS Sports Network and the Fox platforms as well. And you're right, this is the first time in a while that the University of Hawaii is playing as few as four nationally televised games. You got the Vanderbilt game on August 27th at home. You got the game at Michigan on September 10th. That's the third game of the year, with this Western Kentucky game at home in week 1. That'll be on the Big Ten Network. And then the other two nationally televised games against some of the bigger opponents in division in conference. You got the game at Fresno State on November 5th. That'll be on one of the Fox platforms. They kind of flex those sometimes, right? Whether it's FS1, even sometimes they'll put some of those games on Big Fox if it's a marquee matchup. And then you also got the San Diego State game on October 8th. So the third nationally televised game will be against the Aztecs up. I believe their new facility is open. They're up in San Diego. That'll be on CBS Sports Network. And then again, the last nationally televised game, the beginning of November, the first game in November, November 5th on the Fox networks. So Hunter, kind of your take on the schedule, the fact that it's only 4 games of the 13 that will be on national television here for the University of Hawaii, and what you sort of make of all that comes with that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a plethora of reasons for scheduling of national TV programming. But if you took one look at our offense the last year, Jordan, I don't know if we deserved more than 4. And 2 of those, obviously, is you've got an SEC school and then one of the biggest schools there is in Michigan. And so that they just are going to get national TV coverage. So 2 conference games on top of that. I like the matchups there. I think that we always rise to play Fresno. We just always have. And then San Diego State is always a good matchup for us too. So I'm excited for those games. Obviously would like to see more. But you can understand with kind of the production that UH did or did not produce this last season. And I think that has to do with what we're seeing here for sure.
Without a doubt, that factors in, right? I mean, you're getting picked up for nationally televised games because these networks want the best product they can get, right? And so for a University of Hawaii team that wasn't highly productive last year, yes, did finish 500, and a Hawaii team that lost a ton of talent. Like there's no denying that, right? To matriculation as well as transfer. And so there is a wild unknown factor to this team and how it will look. And look, if they go out, win 8 games this year, I guarantee you there will be more than 4 nationally televised games next season. Like that's just how these things work. Totally. A couple of things that are concerning to me, one home game being nationally televised, right? And that is usually something that Hawaii has been able to parlay a little bit. It's also a 4:30 kickoff, right? It's not the usual 6 o'clock kickoff in the Vanderbilt game in week 0. And so a little earlier. But what we have seen lately, CBS Sports Network, even Fox, they kind of like that midnight Eastern kickoff, right? It gives you more football, like more live programming late into the night, kind of on par with some of those late Pac-12 kickoffs, some of those late Mountain West kickoffs on the West Coast. And so that there's going to be no nationally televised games in that late window when you're talking, midnight Eastern or once daylight savings, right? Once you fall back 11 o'clock Eastern. For some of those late games. We've seen that, right? I think even last year we had a game kickoff at was it 7 o'clock Hawaii time? Like I think it was even later than the normal kickoff time for home games. And so that's a little concerning to me. And I got to imagine this also sort of it goes hand in hand with the fact that, you know, a lot of those broadcasts last year were remote in nature, where the announcers were on the, you know, on the continent in a studio someplace. They didn't fly them down here. It also sort of comes on the heels of the announcement that the University of Hawaii put out there that they're going to remain at 9,000 capacity. They're not going to be able to expand it because of supply chain issues, is what was cited. I got to imagine that's a big part of it, right? Because they had hoped to expand the seating capacity pretty substantially. I mean, they were trying to get up into the teens in terms of thousands and keep on expanding as the next couple of years come on, but it's not going to be ready by the fall. So it's going to remain a 9,000 seat stadium. I'm sure some folks will ask about the 15,000 capacity minimum that the NCAA requires. They're currently under a waiver. It's also based off a 2-year rolling average. And according to athletic director David Matlin via the Star Advertiser article that Stephen Tsai wrote, that 2-year period starts this coming season. So last year's numbers basically thrown out the window, and the new 2-year period starts this fall, and then will be paired with 2023 as well. And so there's time, right? There's time depending on how 2023 looks, but you know, the stadium will remain. Word is that they're trying to get increased standing room capacity. Right now, their permit zoning or whatever it is basically allows for that event to hold up to 10,000. So you're talking about maybe standing room capability for another 1,000 fans. Matlin said that they're working on that, I think, with the proper governmental agencies to maybe boost that number and get a few more areas where people can just stand and watch, right? You can get creative, you can get, you know, fun zones, beer gardens and things of that nature, and maybe make that work, right? A la the Bud Light bullpen, or the Heineken hangout. What is it now at Murakami Stadium? Anyway, down the right field line. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. You know, things like that, right? You can get creative. And so those are the things that point in a negative direction. It's great that they'll have 4 games on national television. You know, one of them's on the Big Ten network, which is a little more limited, although their reach is pretty big for one of those conference networks. So for those reasons, the fact that it's only one home game, Fox and CBS, who have the Mountain West contracts, aren't taking advantage of that late window for Hawaii home games, which I thought, quite honestly, and maybe I was wrong in assuming this, was an attractive TV product, an attractive TV time slot for these networks, but they're not taking advantage of that this year. 3 of the nationally televised games on the road. But I got to imagine it in part, you know, the facility, I don't know how much that plays a factor. I got to imagine it's part of it. Yeah. And so, yes, it's 4. Yes, I think it's understandable. But also, when you kind of dig into the layers a little bit, it is a little bit concerning that, you know, it's just the one home game, where when the games are in Hawaii, it's a free commercial for the university. It's a free commercial for Hawaii. You get to showcase all the scenic shots, right? We get the shots of the folks surfing down at Bowls. You get the scenic hike shots. You get the views of Pearl Harbor. All of that. That's only going to happen one time this year. That's a little unusual to me, even though we probably could have predicted that the number of nationally televised games were going to go down after, you know, last season and how unknown this iteration will be. Yeah.
I think with where this is, it's very telling about the program as a whole and the work that needs to be done for Coach Timmy. And I think they've done a fantastic job since getting their feet on the ground just earlier this year. It's been pretty striking, actually, if you ask me. But not only do we need to win football games, but the atmosphere down there, whenever people do tune in and see, it needs to be improved. I mean, that's the bare minimum of what we're all hoping for. I mean, a packed stadium. For those listening, this is the truest example of what Hawaii football should be, is supposed to be, from a feel and aesthetic standpoint. They're trying to get back there. If you look at what we had these last couple of years, obviously you have to throw in COVID without saying anything else there. We had to overcome a lot these last couple of seasons. But then they took away the haka for the boys. I mean, that's a big part from a national standpoint on recognizability for the Hawaii football program. Sure, it's just one little, brief shot of the boys doing the haka before the game, but it's significant. It's tradition. It's what people have come to expect with our team. And then not to mention people not in the stands, and then a poor performance on the field. All of those things go hand in hand with, a good product for TV. So, point number one, Jordan, we got to beat Vandy. We beat an SEC school. So much can turn around for UH football. And I really think that is within the realm of possibility for our team.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that comes with success, right? I think you put that well. Like, look, if you win, people are going to want to put you on TV. Networks are going to want to put you on TV. And
since he's probably on a ton of games this year.
Oh, I'm sure probably all of their games are nationally televised, right? And that's also the stature of the conference as well, I think, with the American and their deal with ESPN. I think going back to a conversation we had, what was it, last week, about the Mountain West and how they've revamped their schedule, and they're going to get rid of divisions starting next year. Part of that is to elevate the stature of the conference, right? And the conference did decide to go with CBS and Fox for their conference partners and away from ESPN. At the last time that broadcast rights package was up. And so that's part of it as well, right? And you're dealing with different television partners, and as accustomed as we were to seeing Boise State on ESPN like every weekend, right? And a lot of Hawaii games as well. That's no longer the reality. It's a different makeup. It's a different situation. And now I would imagine that the vast majority of the remaining games, the remaining 9, will be on Spectrum. I don't know if all of them. I would imagine, the New Mexico State road game, as it was last year, independent, right? So they control some of that stuff. Last year was on Flow Sports. That might be a similar sort of setup this year, with the game being in Las Cruces once again. But yeah, I'd imagine, of the remaining 9, a lot of them will be on Spectrum. I don't know what the package will cost this year for pay-per-view. We'll wait to see how that all works out. But for the University of Hawaii, trying to get that number of nationally televised games back up, no doubt about it. And with the success that comes with it, come the spoils, right? And people want to be a part of that. And we talk about the capacity. And look, even though Hawaii's seating capacity has 9,000, they still haven't played a game in front of 9,000 people at Ching. Like, they haven't been able to fill it up yet for a number of different reasons. And so I echo what Hunter said in terms of, it's got to be a legit game day atmosphere that TV networks are going to want to showcase, because it doesn't have to be 100,000 at the big house. It can be small. It can be mighty. I mean, look at Duke basketball, right? They play in a bandbox at Cameron Indoor. Like, it's a tiny capacity, but it's a madhouse. The broadcast angles are terrible. The announcers are like upstairs in a football style press box, but you know what? All their games are on national television because they're Duke basketball. I'm not saying Hawaii football is going to be that, but you win, you do these things. Boise was getting nationally televised games while their bleachers were on a blue track, on a blue field, right? And they were able to build that thing up into a national brand, and Hawaii can make it happen. So we'll see. Any final thoughts, Hunter, on the schedule, the national TV schedule, and the Ching capacity being, delayed in expansion before we take the halftime break here?
Yeah, I'm a glass half full kind of person. I don't see that as telling of where our future's headed. It just shows the work that needs to be done and where we need to go from here. And all signs point to a massive turnaround with what Coach Timmy Chang and these guys have done, just from a look, a feel, experience of what our program is doing right now. It's going to come with wins too. I'm sure these guys, first and foremost, they are football coaches. So everything else that is following just shows that they really care and are putting in the necessary effort. And so we do well with what we have here. Things will look much different and more bright for our future. I'm positive of it.
Yeah, I would agree there. No doubt about it. All right, we'll take a quick halftime break. Come back. We'll get into several of your comments and questions that you've hit us up with on social media. But before we hit the halftime break, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. As Hawaii's largest credit union, Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union is committed to serving individuals and businesses through its 14 branch locations statewide and convenient digital banking services as well. As a leader in providing support for the islands, Hawaii USA is committed to strengthening Hawaii's financial wellness and sharing successes with members, local businesses, and the greater community. Originally opened in 1936 as a credit union for educators, Hawaii USA has inspired a culture of giving that is rooted in education and has since expanded to other areas of community need that impact financial health, including healthcare, housing, and hunger. To learn more, please visit hawaiiusafcu.com. All right, second half coming up.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, second half time. Jordan Hunter back with you here on episode 40 of Hawaii Football Now, a little landmark episode for us. We mentioned no guest this week. We did want to focus on you, our loyal listeners and followers out there, and we got some good feedback on the Ian Shoemaker interview as well. We had the offensive coordinator for the University of Hawaii quarterbacks coach as well on the last week. Kavika on Facebook commenting on Coach Shoemaker's kind of down to earth vibe, and appreciate him sharing sort of his ties to the islands and his connections right via his wife's side of the family. Al from VA talking about, the family aspect as well. It said, Coach Shoemaker, he's got game and is excited about the operational capabilities of the offense and felt he was a good fit. John on YouTube as well, talking about how Coach Shoemaker likes the adaptability of the playbook to fit the quarterback's abilities. And I do think that, the fact that he's come up from the lower levels, cutting his teeth, NAIA, Division III, Division II, FCS, like he's literally coached at every single one of those levels below FBS Division I football. Like you have to be adaptable. You have to be innovative. You're not getting 5-star quarterbacks all the time. You're not getting the most fleet-footed receivers. Like you have to find ways to score. And the good news is everywhere he's gone, his teams have scored a lot of points. And this is his first FBS job, no doubt. But, the hope is that a guy like Coach Shoemaker, kind of revisiting last week's interview, Hunter, it seems like, what he was sharing resonated with a lot of the folks who got a chance to listen in.
Yeah. But one thing right off the bat, and I mentioned to you, Jordan, was I was trying to speak as little as possible just because I could tell this guy's football IQ was off the charts. And for our listeners' sake, for everyone, I just did not want to dumbify our podcast by saying something dumb and him having to correct me or something. So he was a phenomenal guest. You can tell that he is, I would say, versatile as a coach. I think coming up through the ranks, you have to be creative. You have to learn how to play the game from various different levels, because you don't always have, what you said earlier, the correct tools, the right tools to make a winning formula on the football field. And not only that, a Haole guy from the mainland speaking with such humility and just understanding as well of the job that needs to be done here to kind of reclaim what was lost in the last couple of years. It was encouraging, man. I one of my favorite guests so far for our show.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun, and I think we'll have to have him back on so we can pick his brain a little bit more about offense as we get closer to the season. Big shout out to our guy King Kato as well on YouTube, dropping us a line, and then the Champ Show, as we mentioned, talking story and dropping us a line. He had a couple of questions for us and kind of wanted to pose it to you as well, Hunter. The comment saying that, everything seems to be going in the right direction, right? There is momentum going forward, and to kind of deviating here a little bit, to Timmy Chang's credit, every time I hear him talk about the season and upcoming, he is very positive. He is very optimistic. But I do think there is a sense of, realism to his comments. Like I've heard him mention multiple times, like they've got to win football games, right? All of this is great. But, to paraphrase a little bit, like you got to win, right? We talked to Coach Yoro about it. We talked to Coach Abe about it. Like they know the nature of the business. Like if you don't win, none of that other stuff really gets to last. Right? It doesn't matter. And so the question that we got via YouTube was asking, how do we think Coach Chang will handle adversity this upcoming season? And so I posed that to you, Hunter. How do you think Timmy will handle some of the inevitable? Like they're not going 13-0 and playing in the playoff. Like that'd be awesome, but I don't think that's happening. So there will be adversity. How do you think they handle it?
It's a good question, because right now there is no adversity, at least seemingly at this point in the year. Very, very downtime for football in June. But just about every one of these coaches not only have coached before, but they've played before too. And that's part of being an athlete, is you crave competition, you crave pushback, you want that adversity. And Timmy is one of the all-time great quarterbacks in the history of our program. And so it's something that you just come to expect with sports as an athlete. It's something that you love. You love getting hit in the mouth sometimes and responding accordingly with that. And I think as a coach, he's going to carry that same fire, that same tenacity. And if not, he'll need to if he wants to keep his job. And so that's just sports. That's just football in general too. You get hit. It's not about falling down. It's about how many times you can keep getting back up and keep going. And I mean, the biggest thing for me is this is a brand new team, but we don't know who we are yet. We don't know what to really expect with anything. And I think that poses, some might say that poses a concern. No, I think it poses such an advantage for us, because people don't know how to plan for us. People don't know how to scheme, how to strategize, how to put a defense out there to combat what we're going to put from an offensive standpoint. And so from an advantage standpoint, I feel like everything's on our side of the table coming into this year.
I'm with you, right? There are disadvantages and advantages of being Nick Saban, or being the guy who's never coached a football game as a head coach, and there is an unknown factor. Yeah, there's an unknown factor. And so when you boil down to it, like, how will Coach Chang handle adversity? I'm not entirely sure. The guy's never been a head coach of a college football game yet, right? That's not, and again, to your point, Hunter, that's not a bad thing, but there's a little bit of an unknown factor. One, to how he's going to attack a defense, how he's going to handle clock situations, like all of that, right? That leaves you a little uneasy if you're an opponent. But there's we also
yet either.
Yeah. So, but we don't know yet. But I do think, and again, kind of dovetailing off what you said, Hunter, like we know as a player, the dude was very tough. He was one heck of a battler, one heck of a competitor. Battled through injuries, had to sit for a little bit. Before and after, when Rolo went on his tear in 2002, Timmy got right back in there, set records, led them to a ton of wins, comeback wins. And so as a player, very resilient, very tough-minded, a guy who turned down opportunities to go play at bigger schools on the mainland, to stay home, to pave a path, to kind of be a little bit of a pioneer, to help turn around what was a program in dire straits, right? Coming off the winless season in 1998, to have a local kid of his stature, a local recruit of his stature, after basically just 1 year of June Jones, say, like, yeah, I'm gonna go try it out. I'm gonna stay home. Like, it was right on the heels. And I think a lot of our listeners and fans will remember that, the folks who were, have been diehards for decades. And so how will he handle adversity? I think he's put together a great staff. I think he's put together guys who have been through battles, a lot of them who have been through battles with him, right? Whether at his previous coaching stops or as former teammates. And so he's got a lot of familiarity there. And I think that is valuable to lean on when you screw up, when you lose a football game, when you maybe botch a time clock situation. Like, you need guys, not to get too deep into, war analogies, right? But just in the foxhole, right? Like, you need guys that you can trust. You need guys who will have your back. You need guys who will also tell you when maybe they don't agree, right? There's that healthy nature with it as well. Like, hey, Timmy, you know, maybe we can try something a little different here, and you got to be able to receive that. And I'm sure he has gone through that as an assistant. He has gone through that as a former quarterback. So, you know, I'm optimistic. Again, I could be totally wrong. He could botch everything and just absolutely melt when it comes to adversity. I just don't think that's going to be the case, right? I think he's been through a lot in his professional career, in his personal life as well. You know, he's gone through losses and whatnot, family wise, and so I'm optimistic. I think he's got a little bit of that local boy toughness, and he's been through the battles. So to kind of answer the question a little long winded, I'm optimistic.
Yeah, and I mean he's a St. Louis brethren as well, and those guys take football very, very seriously, and they do not like to lose. So I learned that from Coach Craig Stutzman. He just beat it home that the brotherhood is different. The brotherhood is different, and here we have brotherhood at UH. I'm like, oh my gosh, I guess it is.
Yeah, I'm sure you hear that in your sleep sometime. Just in Stutz's voice coming through.
Oh,
yeah, I mean you got guys like Yoro and whatnot, so that will continue the tradition. There's no doubt. And then another follow-up question from our guy Champ. Again this week, you know, this one's a little more lighthearted. This one's kind of fun, I think, and we can kind of use this to kind of segue ourselves out of the game time segment here, Hunter. His question: what do you think about a UH mascot? Isn't it about time we get one, whether it's a person in a suit or a warrior, in parentheses, Vili like, right? Everybody's still fond of Vili the warrior. He said, I kind of would like to see something similar to the Michigan State mascot, right? Which is like a mascot suit. He's got like the ripped abs, the Spartan. I think it would make the whole game time experience more enjoyable, especially for the Keiki. Do you know if anything is being done about this anytime soon? I don't know if anything's being done about this. It's been talked about. This is a conversation that has come up from time to time. Guys will call into radio shows. You know, it'll pop up, and I do think there is value to it, right? I don't know if we need to bring Vili out of retirement or something like that. He's busy, and I don't know if it needs to be necessarily like a live warrior in the flesh or anything like that. But it's cool. It's part of the game day atmosphere, right? Especially when you're on campus. Maybe it's a little more caricature-like suit, right? Like the Michigan State Spartan or something like that. But I do think, in terms of marketing your program, not necessarily to like me and you, but to the kids, as Champ points out, to the Keiki, I think that is the value in a mascot. That is the value in the game day atmosphere. Go take pictures, right? Things like that. It doesn't have to necessarily be the most forward-facing aspect of the program. It doesn't necessarily have to be the absolute branding, like say Vili the Warrior was. I think in those eras, right? The juniors, like he was synonymous, and it was great. Like I loved it, ate it up. But even if it's just something for game days, something you can go out to pep rallies, you can take on the road when you have a little promotional thing down at City Mill or whatever. Picture. Like it'll help, right? Like something. I don't know what that looks like. You know, maybe it looks like the old running Menahune in the Heisman pose guy or something. You know, something fun. You know, something Rainbow Warrior-y, Rainbow Wahine-y. As you get there, but I think something would be cool. I don't know to what extent, how big you got to go, but I think it would be cool. What do you think, Hunter?
Yeah, no, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about just improving the brand as a whole. I think that we could probably improve here. I mean, we don't have anything, you know, in terms of a mascot right now in a game day environment. And you think about other schools, like I'm thinking about Ohio State right now, not just the mascot and the costume, but even their drum major runs out there and dots the I, you know, turns over his head or whatever and touches his head to the turf or whatever. It's a cool interaction from band on the field and the fans as well, that they come to expect it. I like those sort of things that gets the fans involved with what's going down the field. And yeah, it would be really cool, man. My one thought on, you know, a Michigan State style mascot is we have so much cultural significance here at UH that we would need to get some kumus involved with their
Very
approval.
good point. Yeah, very good point. You don't want to be insensitive and silly, right? That's a
my
great point.
goodness. The last thing we want to do is, in this process of broadening UH's reach from a marketing standpoint, is piss off the local community because of our misrepresentation of Polynesia, Hawaii in general, and our heritage. So that needs to be taken with a huge grain of Himalayan salt. But it's not out of the realm of possibility, in my opinion. I think it could be done. It could be done well. And one thing about having an actual person down there is he's just being him. Vili was just being him down there.
Yeah.
In all of his splendor. So I don't know. I mean, that was done in the past. Perhaps we just try to replicate it in some fashion.
Yeah, you got to do it right. I think that is an excellent point by you, Hunter. So that'll be something to keep our eye on. We'll see what the athletic department maybe has in mind as they move forward.
Better you than me, Jordan, if they're hiring for that position. So
I was thinking like an ex-player, right, or something we can get maybe an NIL deal with a local company or something like. They could sponsor it, right, and get some funding to the players currently on the program or something. There's creative ways.
Something alternative to the cheerleader coming out to Hawaii 5-0 on the surfboard.
There you go. Yeah. It can be side by side. It can be tandem. With the mascot and the cheerleaders, which I always thought was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So as we wrap things up here on Hawaii Football Now, a little overtime here on episode 40. I did want to send a little aloha from the podcast out to a couple of former players from the University of Hawaii. Jimmy Asato, former player and coach, who recently passed away at the age of 94, and also out to the family of Kenji Kawaguchi, former UH standout in the late 40s, early 50s, played in the 1951 Hula Bowl. He's from Lahaina here on Maui. I know his family pretty well. He was the very first head executive of the Maui Interscholastic League, the high school league here in Maui County, and just a wonderful man who lived a great life. And one of his granddaughters is my classmate and just a terrific man. So I just wanted to send a little aloha out to the Asato and Kawaguchi families, some of the pioneers, some of the OGs, man, of University of Hawaii football, like leather helmets back in the day kind of stuff, losing a couple of legends. So I just wanted to pass a little note along, Hunter, from all of us here at Hawaii Football Now. And we'll give you the last word here on episode 40.
Man, great time to be alive. My overtime segment is the UH volleyball team, after winning the Natty, got invited up to the president's house up here in Manoa. And just like to say, we never got that invite. With multiple bowl wins, we never got that invite to go to the president's house, which I guess they keep that for national champions.
Got to win the Natty, man. You got to win the Natty.
Man,
when Timmy Chang is routinely beating Nick Saban, we'll make sure that we demand the president invite the football squad up there.
Would that merit bringing the house down up there? Could they throw such a rager at the president's house after beating Saban in a Natty? I assume that we could do whatever we want up there to that historic home. That's ridiculous.
That's a lot of fun.
Yep.
All right, that'll about do it for us here on episode 40. Again, a big mahalo to all the listeners and followers out there. We really appreciate it. Always feel free to drop us a line on Facebook, on YouTube, via social media as well, when we post the links to these podcasts on Instagram, Facebook, as well as Twitter here on the ESPN Honolulu platforms. You can catch us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts as well. We did get a question from somebody on Twitter about Google Podcasts, and we'll have to follow up on that as we try to bring our reach as wide as possible. Big thanks to Hunter. Big thanks to our guy Jaron on the controls, who tells me it's in the works for Google Podcasts. You got to go through all the clearances. We got to make sure, we're not. It's a family-friendly episode. Do we swear? Do we not swear? All these kinds of things. It's a whole gauntlet of clearances you got to get before your podcast gets on the air, because I'm sure the folks at Google have a lot of requests. And the humble Hawaii Football Now podcast, presented by Xanthison, they're probably like, what is this stuff? So we'll keep everybody abreast as to where we are going next with this here humble program. A big thanks to our other sponsors as well, Spectrum Mobile and Hawaii USA FCU. We'll see you next week, everybody, on Hawaii Football Now. Have a great weekend. Aloha.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helly and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.